The book of Daniel chapter 12, verse 4 prophesied around 3,000 years ago that, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased," which now at present times is manifested by billions of people who are avid travelers, and there has been a mind-boggling and ever-increasing volume of knowledge. This prophecy was written by the prophet Daniel who, according to Bible historians, lived from 620 BC to 538 BC, and he was said to have died at around 80 years old. Who was the prophet Daniel? Daniel was a noble Jewish youth who was taken captive with his 3 friends and brought to Babylon. In Daniel 1 verse 3-4 it says, "And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, to be trained for 3 years on the Babylonian language, culture, and literature to prepare them for service at the king's court of Babylon." This happened when the kingdom of Babylon conquered Jerusalem in 605 BC according to Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. A noble person is described as someone who belongs to nobility, the highest social class possessing the qualities of uprightness, honesty, generosity, courage, and some are heirs to thrones. In Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, it says that upon arrival in Babylon, Daniel and his 3 friends refused, to avoid becoming defiled, to eat the meat and wine provided by the king of Babylon. Eating the food of the Babylonians was against the kashrut, which is the Jewish dietary laws in the Torah, that defines what foods are fit to be eaten. Daniel, being a devout Jew, would only eat kosher foods prepared according to the kashrut. In Daniel chapter 1, verse 10, it says that the head servant who brought food to Daniel became so afraid that the king might punish him for failing to convince Daniel and his 3 friends to eat the food provided by the king. The head servant tried hard to persuade Daniel and his friends to eat the food provided by the king. Otherwise they might all become weaker than the other young men, and as a result the king would surely put the servant to death. However, Daniel trusted God and wanted to obey God's commandments. In Daniel chapter 1, verses 12-16, it says that Daniel asked the head servant to give them, for a period of 10 days, water and pulse, which is a mixture of grains and legumes. And then the servant shall compare their health with the health of the other young men. The servant agreed, and after 10 days he saw that Daniel and his friends were evidently healthier than all the other young men. Upon seeing this, the head servant removed all the meat and started serving pulse to other servants. In Daniel chapter 1 verse 18, it says that after their training, Daniel and his friends were finally brought to the king's court to meet the king. King Nebuchadnezzar inquired them regarding all matters of wisdom and understanding. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers in the kingdom. By following God's commandment, God made Daniel and his friends the wisest in the king's court. In Daniel chapter 2 verses 1-12, it says that the time came when King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He called all the wise men, the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans in the kingdom, and asked them what was his dream about and to interpret his dream. All the wise men asked the king to tell them what was his dream so they could interpret it. The king refused to tell the wise men what was his dream all about. The king became very angry because none of the wise men could tell him what was his dream, and he ordered that all wise men, including Daniel and his 3 friends, be put to death. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 13-19, it says that when Daniel learned about the king's order to kill all the wise men in the kingdom, including themselves, Daniel asked the king's captain not to kill all the wise men and to give him time to show to the king what was his dream and its interpretation. Daniel told his 3 friends about the decree of the king to kill all the wise men. They prayed and sought mercy from God, and the king's dream was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. In Daniel chapter 2 verse 24-35, it says that Daniel asked the king's captain to bring him to the king to tell him his dream. Daniel told the king that in his dream he saw a great image, whose brightness was intense, standing before the king, and its form was terrible. The head of the image is of fine gold, its breast and arms are of silver, its belly and thighs are brass, its legs of iron, its feet part of iron and part of clay. Then the king saw a stone came and hit the feet of the image and broke them to pieces. Then the stone also broke the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold, and all became like chaffs, and the wind carried them away. In Daniel chapter 2, verses 46-48, it says, after which King Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, saying that Daniel's God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets. The king then made Daniel a great man and gave him many gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. This man, the Daniel in Babylon, is the same legendary prophet Daniel who, according to Daniel chapter 6, verses 16-20, was thrown into the den of lions to be devoured but was not harmed by the hungry and ruthless beasts. And this is the same prophet Daniel attributed to as the author of chapter 12, verse 4 that says, "Many shall run to and fro and knowledge shall be increased." How could have the prophet Daniel prophesied that in the very distant future, around 23 centuries later, people will travel a lot and that the growth of knowledge will increase at an astounding pace? During his time there were yet no signs of modern technological developments and everything were all in their primitive stages. People were just walking or riding donkeys, horses, camels, chariots, carts, and small sailboats to get to their destinations. Obviously, of course, it was not convenient then to travel over long distances due to these slow means of transportation. That exposed travelers to various harsh weather conditions so that traveling then was quite limited and done only out of necessity. Also, there was still lack of extensive written records on everything they were doing. The first steam-powered carriage was invented only in 1784. The first combustion engine passenger car was invented in 1886. The first motorized ocean-going passenger ship was the SS Selandia, launched in 1912. The first passenger airplane, Benoist 14, made its inaugural flight only on January 1, 1914. And the precursor of the Internet, the ARPANET, was launched only in 1969. Also, in those times, people manually wrote and sent letters to communicate with one another. These letters were written on papyrus scrolls or leather sheets and sealed with wax or clay to prevent tampering. The letters were sent via human messengers who carried the letters personally from the sender to the recipient. The messengers could be friends, relatives, servants, or hired couriers who traveled by foot, by animal, or by boat. The letters usually included greetings, blessings, prayers, instructions, warnings, or prophecies. Since then, after around 23 centuries, great technological advancements and inventions came about that have immensely changed the way we live and brought desirable conveniences and comforts in the way we travel. In our modern world, we now travel by planes, by buses, by cars, by trains, and by ships. The remarkable developments, especially in the field of aviation, have considerably facilitated to increase our desire to travel. In the year 2019 alone, a total of 4.46 billion passengers were recorded traveling by plane in both local and international flights. The list of reasons why we travel are recurring and also ever increasing. That now includes our desire to experience cultures of other countries, to see beautiful and historical places, to study, to work, to undergo training, to conduct research, to join international conferences, to perform in theatrical and musical concerts, to witness historical events, to conduct business transactions, to participate in competitions, to explore natural wonders, etc. Also, now, we no longer send information by manually writing and sending letters. But we are now mostly communicating via computers, by analog telephones, by digital cellular phones, by satellite phones. And we also fully make use of the internet and various social media platforms in all aspects of our daily tasks and functions. Regarding the rapid growth in knowledge, according to a study made in the year 2018 and posted at ResearchGate website, the total amount of data created, captured, copied, and consumed in the world was 33 zettabytes, the equivalent of 33 trillion gigabytes. This grew to 59 zettabytes in 2020 and is predicted to reach a mind-boggling 175 zettabytes by 2025. 1 zettabyte is 8 sextillion bits. To help visualize these numbers, let's imagine that each bit is as thin as a 1-pound coin, which is around 3 millimeters or 0.1 inch thick. 1 zettabyte made up of a stack of coins would be 2,550 light-years long. 1 light-year is the distance traveled by light in 1 Earth year, which is 9 trillion kilometers. This can get us to the nearest star system, Alpha Centauri, 600 times. The Alpha Centauri is 38 trillion kilometers away from Earth. Currently, in each year we produce 59 times that amount of data. Each day we generate 500 million tweets, 294 billion emails, 4 million gigabytes of Facebook data, 65 billion WhatsApp messages, and 720,000 hours of new content added daily on YouTube. This is quite astonishing, showing exactly how fast the entire world is producing and accumulating information. What Prophet Daniel wrote in chapter 12, verse 4, in almost 3,000 years ago is now proven to be quite correct, that are now actually happening in our times. To God be all the glory and praise.
Amen.